Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Talking Point on WESN, the only station in the nation broadcasting in HD. My name is Sean Michael Small. Of course, Keaton Shaw. He is still off, but the show continues here in TNT. A lot of interesting things have happened. I have successfully been able to avoid reading the crime reporting going on in TNT. Unfortunately, that doesn't necessarily mean that murders are not continuing unabated. However, there are other things to speak about, so let's get into those topics, some of which they're continuation of current ongoing stories, one of which has gotten my blood a bit boiling this morning. We'll get into all that in today's Daily Review. So, one of the ongoing stories is, of course, the recording, allegedly, of someone from the THA saying, let's get some people, let's get them, if necessary, they can make fake accounts to help control the narratives on social media, to spread propaganda, and let's get them THA jobs so that they will have some form of income, and then they'll do this work on the side for us, after working hours, which is already borderline corruption, right? Let's just say what it is. Now, the silence from one of the people alleged to have made those comments, to have said those words, and it's difficult. I like to try to see the other side of things, but it's kind of difficult to spin the statements in a different way. Now, the individual who is alleged to have made those statements, well, the silence has been deafening, as I said. And he has recently commented on the fact that in the future he will comment on it. So, he said he will break his silence in the coming days. He has a high degree of confidence that when he speaks on the issue, he and his executive will be properly exonerated. He has no fear. He doesn't lose. He's saying people don't lose any sleep over it. In fact, by the time we get to the end of the week, you will hear more extensively about this matter and some others as well. He says it involves security considerations. It's extremely serious. And he says everybody will not be happy when he makes a statement. And it might bring the house down on some people. That's interesting. That's interesting. And, if that is the truth, I want to hear it. I have a hard time seeing how that could happen based on the statements. I mean, this isn't the first time that, politicians out of the THA executive said, be on the lookout for upcoming announcements, and then the upcoming announcement literally was barely anything, was a whisper in the dark, was a whimper. They were launching a new political party, and to some observers, they were taking too much time on the business of launching a new party. Some might argue either to consolidate his position as leader of the THA executive. Otherwise, technically, as someone who advocated that it doesn't matter if they're independents by law, I have to concede the fact. Why do you need a political party? It's either for the expectations of the public or the fact that you want to consolidate your position. I'll get back to that first point. So, we already had a situation where they make claims. When we speak, things will happen. Things didn't happen. So, I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith, despite the fact that he says don't lose any sleep over it. Oh, trust me, I ain't losing any sleep over it. It's not my feet, right, that's hanging over the fire. Now, I want to make this clear. I have no issues personally with the THA executive, with the chief secretary, deputy chief secretary, etc. I wish them well. It is within my personal ideological beliefs for them to do well. Because I don't want to see the latest attempt to break the stranglehold of the political establishment to fail. right? I've said this before. So I don't want them to fail. I want them to succeed. That makes things like this all the more infuriating. The part that makes it especially infuriating is when he was reported to have said, I know a lot of people in the media want me to talk on their time. That is one thing I don't do. I set my own agenda. The media don't set my agenda, but beyond that, I will speak extensively on the issue. Now, Talking Point is a show that is an equal opportunity critic. That's what we do on this show. We don't favor anybody, right? So we have had situations before. I believe there was at least one time when the opposition leader did it, and multiple times when the prime minister did it, where they blamed the media, where they didn't like the media coverage about something, right? In fact, I am sure when I say one time with the opposition leader that I could remember, that I spoke on the record, I believe it was sometime last year. So when those situations came up in the past, we criticized the involved parties because of it. Is it now fair or unfair to criticize you about this? Because it's not about our timing. Remember, what did I say? The only reasons to have a political party in the THA is to consolidate your position, but the first reason I gave was because you were, responding to demands of the electorate. And it's not the media that's demanding you to speak on this. It's the voters. If the voters didn't care, then the media could do all they want to try to push an agenda. At some point, it ain't gonna work. And the media and TNT, folks, let's be real. Compared to other nations, our media is quite tame. Quite tame. One could argue that the media is in fear of people in power because they don't want to lose access, but that's besides the point. You ain't being really challenged on anything, buddy. This is playground level difficulty of political challenges, right? You have a tape that sounds really bad. It's very, very difficult for anybody to think of even any alternative plausible scenario, and you're silent on it. And then you want to take umbrage to the fact that we want you to speak on it. No one is blaming you for anything yet. You could control how you speak about it. You could, yes, control the timing of it, but 21 days later is kind of long. Well, 20 plus days later. So, more and more, I am concerned that we are really seeing the negative sides of inexperienced people in political office, of being voted in, of facing the challenges that they apparently, it seems as though they thought they were ready for it, and now they're proving themselves to be completely unprepared for it. And again, I still want them to succeed. But let's be real. Statements like that potentially undermine the media. Don't tell the media how to do their job, especially when you yourself seem to be very much oblivious to how to do some of the basic functions of your job. We ain't even talking about the stuff with regards to the office of Chief Secretary. I'm talking about how to be a politician 101. This is straight out of the playbook of the other political parties. Blame somebody else. Blame the media. Take no responsibility. Make a lot of promises. Talk a lot of bluster. How is this any different to your own political opponents? You have now arrived. You are in the hot seat. Nobody else is in the hot seat in Tobago. Of course the dynamics are going to change because you are the one setting policy or lack thereof. Be straightforward to the people. When you started off well. I don't know what happened that you went off the rails, but buddy, I ain't gonna lie, your inexperience in politics grew up real fast because you are literally killing my hopes to see the political environment of this nation improve, because people are gonna just default back to what is comfortable, what they already know, regardless of how much they complain about it. We have already heard on this show people say that have voted for the PDP, but next year go vote for the PNM. They already had that plan in their brain before you started to stumble. This is not helping. This level of arrogance and entitlement, why don't you save that for the other political parties? If you want to be better, if you want to say, yeah, we're going to fix this, how? I ain't see signs of you fixing much, except trying to fix your bad PR, and you're bad at that. So don't tell the media how to do its job, because this is, in a very, very, very minor way, undermining the independence of the media. Like I said, don't tell us how to do your job if you don't know how to do yours, because one of our jobs is to hold politicians into account. You don't like it, do something else. Because if this very, very, very reasonable demand is too much for you, then obviously you're not cut out for this job. People who are truly your friends ain't gonna butter you up and tell you the things that they think you want to hear. They will tell you the things you need to hear. And Talking Point is more than willing to tell the emperor he is not wearing any clothes. This ain't about trying to undermine you. You're not doing well. You want to ignore the advice? Keep going how you're going. We'll see how long things will last. There's a reason why the PNM is the most stable party in the nation, because they don't make mistakes quite like this. Running out of time, but hopefully we'll get into the third story, but the second story is something I definitely want to touch on, and that is the fact, well, there are calls now for a coalition for local government. I don't even know how that would work. Obviously, it won't work like how we saw the People's Partnership work, right, with regards to Parliament. Because that's a bit more straightforward. You win that seat, you win that seat, you win the next seat, and we all come together, and we have more seats than the main party we're trying to oppose, so we form the government. There have been talk about how it would work, and maybe they would not contest seats in local government jurisdictions. So they will decide who will go up to contest which corporation, etc. I don't know how well that will work. All I know is this. We've seen the People's Partnership and how well that went. It took all but one term for the political leader of the UNC to forget that she's leading a coalition and decide our re-election campaign is going to be all about me. When you're the political leader of a party, it could be all about you. As much as I very much dislike that model. Go on the record vehemently saying how much I dislike that. But it is what it is. We see it on both sides, especially in the UNC. I have seen politicians that I respect say beautiful things about the opposition leader, which is basically the one time where I find I can't agree with what they're saying and wonder if, to what extent, it may or may not be outright untruths. I wonder to what extent. I'm not making a proclamation. That said, this is how the COP died. I still remember how the COP started. The belief that the people on the ground had, even where I live, was inspiring. And how quickly did that die? Because somebody decided the re-election campaign was going to be about Vote Kamala. It's a coalition. So now you're going to start a coalition again in a couple of months just to get rid of the PNM. Folks, you can't drive a nation's growth and improvement and success on a campaign that is literally just going to be all about, let's get rid of that guy. In fact, that's what it seems as though the then PDP campaigned on. Let's get rid of that guy. You see how well it's turning out? Just about every election that I've ever heard of, where the campaign promise was, but we want to get rid of that guy. Let's get rid of that guy. That guy is the source of all your problems. When we get rid of that guy, we'll solve all of them. And then they get into office, and what happens? Politics, governance, and politics is two different things. Right? Not everything that the government says is a lie. We complain about the public service I'm saying that rhetorically, all the time. How many times have you had horrible interactions because of the bureaucracy being way too complex, the red tape being way too thick? I mean, when you have to resort to things that are borderline corruption or corruption just to get what you as a citizen are entitled to, you know you have a problem with how your country's being run, right? I mean, that's one of the reasons why I just kind of look at certain things like, I don't even want to bother applying for X, Y, or Z because I don't want to go through all that hassle. And I ain't about to go and put anything under the table for nobody. So, it's nice, you know. We're going to form a coalition to get rid of the wicked, blah, 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 blah. What's your plan to make things better? I don't care who does it. Somebody do it, please. But if all you're about is just winning elections, you're wasting my time. Where's your plan? Your plan is basically everything that guy says, I'm going to disagree with. And I'm going to do the opposite of. That's not how you govern a country. It's how you do politics. In 2023, around the world, everywhere, sure. That's how you do politics. That's not how you actually improve the standard of living of people. That's why, folks, we keep complaining no matter who we vote in. Maybe I am just doing what the professor always says, spitting in the wind. Let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to get into more deeper topics, of course, with our usual Wednesday contributor. Stay tuned. This is Talking Point on your content capital, WESN, the equal opportunity critics of TNT. Stay tuned. We'll be back after this.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
The best laptops and tablets are at dbesttoys.com. Get a Gateway 14.1-inch Ultra Slim notebook or an HP 14-inch laptop at the best prices in TNT. Get the Fire 7 tablet for $474. You can also shop the latest Amazon Fire Sticks. Call now at 32-DBEST to order or visit us in-store at Forces flagship MacBean. Shop online now at dbesttoys.com. Free delivery available throughout Trinidad and Tobago. Cash or links on delivery.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing on.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is there no pressure on Nicholas Paul?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the red, white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
Every day, we communicate through stories. Stories of ourselves, our challenges, our goals, our experiences, and our aspirations. Storytelling is an art that we have mastered. WESN Film Studios comprises a collaborative team of experts with extensive industry experience locally, regionally, and internationally. The ability of your business to successfully communicate with your preferred audience depends on the strength of the stories you tell. Your vision should be communicated in a high-quality, professional, and creative way. From concept to post-production, advertising to film, multi-camera productions, live events, streaming, and virtual conferencing, we are WESN Film Studio. Let your own unique voice be heard and your vision realized. Call us today at 628-5835 for your next production.
We invite you to our 7th National Day of Prayer as we stand praying for the protective services of our nation, Trinidad and Tobago. Join us on Monday, June 19 from 2 p.m. at Wilfred Square in the city of Port of Spain as we stand and pray for our Commissioner of Police and police officers, for the Acting Commissioner of Prison and Prison Officers, for the Chief Fire Officers and Firemen, for the Air Marshal, Defense Force, Coast Guard, and Air Guard, declaring, "Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord." Psalm 33:12. It's our 7th National Day of Prayer, Monday, June 19, 2 p.m., Wilfred Square, Port of Spain. See you there.
Welcome back to Talking Point, ladies and gentlemen, on your content capital, WESN. Of course, you could check out our social media for clips on our morning shows. We post them every 24 hours where you could, find back the specific conversations for the topics that we speak about every morning. And of course, to speak with me this morning, our usual Wednesday contributor, the good lady of Talking Point, former Minister of Finance, former attorney at law. It's interesting that she had a hand with the origin of many an important legislation, as well as having a hand with teaching many a legislator the law, and yet somehow how good work has been twisted out of context. And I'll leave that alone because we have other topics to speak about this morning. Good morning, Karen.
Well, that's a very good reflection on me, I have to say.
No, it was, your work was taken and then made bad.
Oh, okay, corrupted.
Exactly,
corrupted.
especially legislation.
But the good thing about it is that regardless of the students I have taught, which is a good indication, at least for me as having taught for so many years, is that usually when you do like a former teacher at whatever level, you do your best to avoid eye contact and you see them and you run in the other direction. I am known to do that myself, but that has not been my experience. So that is that is a good thing. But we're here today, you know, myself and Sean discuss what we're going to talk about. I'm going to start by saying this as I'm not a former attorney at law, I'm still one, but I am author of textbooks, which I hope my students and practitioners still find useful. But what I really wanted to start by saying, and it is coming from my own experience from being in government, when we had the global financial crisis. I could recall just maybe a month before the crisis, the collapse occurred, a gentleman who represented Bear Stearns came in to see me and was trying to convince the government to make investments in Bear Stearns. Now, Bear Stearns, for those who don't know, is a huge financial organization, the likes of a Lehman Brothers, you know, they were, as we like to say, they were big in the dance. Bear Stearns collapsed in a weekend. From Friday to Monday, it collapsed. And why? Lack of confidence. So key to any economy and running any country is you have to have the confidence of the people. And part of that confidence has to come from, you may not say everything that you have to say because, you know, you're running, you don't need to scare people, you don't need to scare off, particularly foreign investors. What you want to do is build the economy, provide the security. And so today, what I decided, and Sean thankfully agreed with me, is that I looked back at the recent announcement, and I think it had the picture, if I could recall the picture, it seemed to me like the Prime Minister was standing in the center. Am I right? A picture. There's a picture of them with this meeting with the U.S. Vice President, where she undertook that they would contribute U.S. $100 million to the Caribbean.
I'm not entirely
okay, well,
sure.
in any event, I may be wrong, but it may be because the Prime Minister stands out because of his height.
Right, height is sometimes to do with it, right?
It's a combination of factors. But just let the goodly people know that that conference was not co-hosted by our government. It was co-hosted by the Prime Minister of Bahamas, which I happen to have met, yes, when I was teaching, Prime Minister, but he was not one of my students, not at all. Prime Minister Davis, as well as the Vice President of the United States. And the committing the undertaking of the $100 million was more, if you recognize, you know, some people have said to me, you see, they give $100 million. I said, excuse me, did you hear them say the word Caribbean? I think you seem to be missing that word. And a lot of the, if you read the text, and I don't want to take away anything from Trinidad, but I certainly don't want to indulge in what you call hyperbole, you know, exaggerated speech, to give the impression that in fact, most of the financial support is understandably being given to small, vulnerable Caribbean countries that are very much impacted by climate change, because their lifeblood is tourism. And as they have said, the carbon emissions that have changed the whole pattern of the climate and so on, they haven't caused it. They don't emit any gas. They're not industrialized, yet they're paying a price, which again is unfair to them. So much of the money has been channeled to those countries that have been most affected by climate change, and that means those that depend on the tourism. Trinidad, and to its credit, I have to say, we have a crime, I don't know if we knew about it before, I didn't, so I will admit to that, Crime Gun International Unit, which focuses on gun-related crimes and intelligence gathering, working together with the United States and Interpol and all the major agencies to deal with gun control. So I don't know if that has financial implications. It's probably not so much, more technical assistance, but that is what I got out of the whole thing. And that really brings me to looking at some of the things that really, I started by using the word confidence. And when, you know, I have to be careful because one will say, well, you're being harsh, but we have to be harsh on those who run the government. I mean, if you are the one running a store or a business, am I going to look at the former owner and I might blame them in the sense that, oh, he left the thing in a mess. But if he took over leadership, then we expect by some time, certainly 8 years later, red and ready, that you would have gotten your act together. So let's start with some of the things that we should know. One of the things, and I'm saying some of these things because when the minister speaks, the Minister of Finance speaks, I like that he likes to speak in a positive way, but I think there's a distinction between positive and giving an impression of prosperity and etc. that simply is not there. So I can give you some immediate examples. One of the things that he has said is that, you see, we reduce the debt. The debt has gone down from what it was in 2021. It's gone down. We were expecting the debt to have gone.
This is debt to GDP
Debt
ratio.
to GDP, so I'm going to explain it. Debt to GDP ratio has gone down. We were expecting 86%. Even IMF commented on that. And look at the debt to GDP in 2022. It's 70% or something, much less than even we expected. Now let's understand what that really means. When you talk about GDP, it's the gross domestic products and services that your country has produced in a fiscal year put into financial terms. It's not the revenue, because the revenue is the tax on those things. So let me use a most simplified example. 2022 we know was a bumper year for Trinidad. We know that we actually had for the first time well, nearly balanced anyhow. Well, let everybody ask.
The thing is, right?
It was not unbalanced.
We were told we had X amount of a deficit, and then we got more revenue, so we had a bit of a surplus or extra revenue, which cut into the deficit, so we were close to balance, except there were a lot of outstanding payments
like
to be made. The VAT refunds, contractors being owed, TNTech is owed billions of dollars, etc. It's like there's so much money the government owed or government agencies
forget about that. Receivables, and forget about that. And don't get into all those details. But anyway, coming back to the debt to GDP. So he boasted about how the debt to GDP in 2022 was 70%, much less than what was anticipated. What he's not telling you is, if the debt, let's say you had your gross domestic product, goods and services you produced in 2021 was, let's say, was $3 billion, but you owed, let's say, $1 billion. $1 billion. I'm just trying to make it as simple as possible. Obviously, your debt based on what you have produced is going to be fairly high because your debt is so high. But if in the next year, through no act on your part, because we know it was the oil and gas prices that went skyrocketing, that we saw a huge difference in our revenue take and our GDP. So let's suppose you still owed, now you actually owed more money now, because from what I understand, the debt increased from 126 billion to 129. We actually increased our debt from 2021 to 2022. But guess what? Your debt to your GDP reduced to 70%. Why? Because you had more money. Instead of having $5 billion, maybe you had $10 billion. And the debt you owed, you increased it a little bit. But when you increased it and you look at how much the debt represents your gross domestic product, you're going to find out that it is going to be far, far less. So for the minister to boast as if what they are...
Don't forget also inflation, because you pointed this out as well.
Well, I just wanted to deal with that first.
But I mean, that also contributed to making the debt look a lot less, because inflation makes the GDP look higher, because the prices go up.
Well, that is true, but... So but I'm dealing with the minister's, what the minister says to you. So when he makes it seem as though all is well in the land of Oz, that we are suddenly managing our debt much better, more than we expected. It had nothing to do with what they did. It's just that our gross domestic product was much, much more. And even the debt had increased by $2 billion. But of course, because we had made so much more, think of running a business if you're making much more money and you owe a little bit more. When you look at how much of it represents your debt, it's going to be much less than it was the year before when you didn't make so much money. Simple maths, right? Then we look at what my co-host is reminding me of inflation. The other thing about inflation, we talked about it before. But one of the things you have to bear in mind, this is very worrying, and I think they play it down, and it really needs to be highlighted. When you see inflation going up, and this is what America I've said it before, is being challenged with. They're actually scratching their heads over it because what they're seeing is that the numbers of persons being employed is going way beyond what they anticipated. There's so much you can do in increasing the Fed rate. The reason being you want it to be more costly to borrow, more costly to buy a house, more costly to buy a car, more costly to do things, so that it will not have so much money circulating. And if you have more money circulating, people say, hey, I better open up a business, and open a business, and I better charge more because people have money. And so it goes, and so it goes, and so it goes. So hand in hand with high inflation is usually because the economy is doing well. We went through that period once when they talked about in 2008, when they talked about 10% slippery, we're going on a slippery slope. But look at this. When you look at our inflation figures for Trinidad and Tobago, when our economy was not doing well at all, at all. In fact, our fiscal deficit was negative 2. I'm going to start from 2014. The fiscal deficit was negative 2.4, negative 1.5, negative 5.0, negative 8.5, 8.4, negative 3.5. And in 2020, the whole world was really, except maybe Guyana, negative 11.5. So we know that the negative fiscal deficit did not start with COVID. That's to begin with, okay? We know it didn't start.
Yes.
Yeah, so stop blaming it on COVID, okay? That's number one. Number two, when you look at inflation, if your economy is not doing well, consumer confidence is not there, people are not spending. Before COVID, now after COVID, they're still not spending, they're being careful how they spend it because their salaries have not gone up. And guess what has gone up? Inflation. And guess what inflation is your purchasing power. And guess in what area? In two key areas, food and in fuel. And I just want to make this one point. Dr. Roger Hossain, used as a base figure. He said that the food inflation between 2050 to 2022 has gone up by 45%. So you are working in 2015 for $4,000. And when you go in the grocery, 45% of the food that you are now purchasing for your family has gone up, the food has gone up by 45%. And then you have to pay for transportation, right? And so what we are seeing now is an economy that is flat, fiscal deficits that is really in a negative position. And do you know what the inflation rate was? In 2018 is 1%, 2019 1%, 2017 1.9%, 2020 0.6%, nobody's spending money. 2021, but you know what is in 2022? 5.8%. And when it took out the food, it was over 8%. Do you understand that people are suffering in this country? And as someone said to me, you're talking about people living in clap and board houses, middle class people whose salaries have not increased and who have to face a grocery, who have to put gas in their car and have to pay for these things. They are becoming part of the lower income group. Slowly but surely they are sliding into that.
Well, I would argue it's not so slow anymore.
It's not
the
so
way
slow.
Things are going.
But I think I was told to take a break,
yes,
so I could go into
we have to take that break. When we can come back, Karen will continue because, again, yes, perception sometimes matters. How we perceive the trajectory of our country's economy. So we'll continue on this topic when we return here on your content capital, WESN Talking Point. We'll be right back.
As Kevin Hart would say, damn! Why we have so much minors out on the streets? There's an after-school program happening there.
Side women, don't give up. You know, you can become queen one day.
Those companies who are currently looking for their money that they deposited in the Silicon Valley Bank, it's not there. ChatGPT is basically the start of Terminator. Our relationship with the colonial powers is like a relationship with a little bit of abuse that people like to stay in. And we remember how that was. Put in $100 and later tonight, you'll get back 3,000. I promise you. Or promise you not. Did you rent an accent while you were across there?
When you're in the proximity of Donald Trump, somehow you adopt his aura.
First of all, I thought that $200 would be more than enough. It's $200.
I was a goat farmer. I had 3 goats. Yeah, 3 goats and 1 cow. You know the name?
No, I don't.
Right, Messi, LeBron, and Cristiano Ronaldo. And the cow named Haaland.
I love Trinidad and Tobago, you know.
Join me, Dr. Nalini Kokram, on What's Up Doc, where we discuss all your burning questions concerning health.
Trinidad and Tobago is among one of the highest risk group of patients that develop this form of genetic breast cancer.
What I'd like to take home from a short interview like this, screening. You must screen.
Because it's silent.
It's silent.
Yeah.
And because it's silent, you don't know it's there.
What's Up Doc, every Tuesday and Thursday on WESN, Content Capital.
Seven is out, all day is in. WESN News on the hour.
Welcome back to Soccer Ball, ladies and gentlemen. I hit Karen one day and
what
she took
did she
offense. She took offense. She scolded me.
Say, I give you back a good answer. Just please say that now.
Well,
so.
you see, we don't want to talk about those.
Okay, we're not going to talk about it.
But what we are going to talk about, though, you have a lot of more points to make.
Yes, and I'm just going to go through them quickly because I just want to say to the people who want to say that negative Nancy or whatever they want to call me, please go to your economic bulletin. Please go to your CSO. Don't take my word for it, and don't take the government's word for it. That's what I'm trying to tell you, okay? So, for instance, with the repo rate, the repo rate has stayed at 3.9. What does the repo rate mean? That gives an indication what the bank should lend at. And it usually gives you a sense of whether there's too much money in the system. They tend to bring down the repo rate in order to encourage spending and encourage liquidity for the economy to grow. But Trinidad has been stuck at a repo rate of 3.50 when it was at 5% just in 2019. And this is going on, and this is going on in the face of what's happening in America with the Fed, where they're having their own little struggles, but we're not going to go into their struggles in detail right now. But the point is, they are going with the struggle. Is there too much money going into the system? But they still have a thing of 5.5%. So what people are concerned about is that there is going to be more and more money being spent out of these capital flight, as they call it, because our repo rate has not improved. And the central bank is yet to give a good explanation. If they're saying there's a liquidity and reserve requirement and the bank has reduced and all that good stuff, why is your repo rate still low? It's so low because the consumer confidence is not there and people simply do not have the money to spend. End of repo rate. HSF, Heritage Stabilization Fund. Well, I said it already, I'm going to say it again. They made an amendment to Heritage Stabilization Fund, which I have no problem with in this sense of including contagious diseases as a
Right,
cause
yes.
for going to the fund. Of course, they did not separate the heritage from the stabilization, which they promised to do ever so long, including the government of which I was a part. But the part I wanted to say is, of this, they did 8 withdrawals in 2020 to 2020, 8 withdrawals. And of one of them, it went into the consolidated fund. And your Minister of Finance, in his mid-year review, said, you notice I did not go into the HSF. No, he didn't have to, because he took the money out of the HSF and put it in a consolidated fund. So is that being, are you being straightforward with the country? And then again, the loss to the HSF, all the time he was boasting, when he was taking out money, he was saying, look, no, even though in a matter of weeks, look, months, we recover. We lost nearly $1 billion. It's in the report, not me, Karen, saying it was 913 million US. That's nearly $1 billion that we have lost in the HSF. He said we're recovering. But what happened in 2022? That this is the first time in the history of the HSF that we have lost money in the HSF. Why don't you talk about that for a change? And why don't you talk about perhaps the investments that were being made were not the best investments? So that's the HSF. Then we talked about the repo rate growth. One of the things that bothers me is that we talk and we use this always, the economy and what we met in 2015. Oh God, 16, 17, 18, 19, that's nearly a whole term, You couldn't get it right? Because I just gave you figures that showed you how bad the economy was. But let us get to this point. The point is, these countries that are dependent on tourism, which is why I say we need to do the diversification, because I used some of the data, and just to get straight to the point. For example, when we looked at 2020, I'm going to use that as the benchmark. Eastern Caribbean countries, they had a negative 13.7 fiscal deficit because of what they were going through in 2020 with COVID. We also had, I think Bahamas was the most hard hit with negative 23.8, which is probably why they had the conference in Bahamas. Right? Trinidad wasn't too bad, was badly off as many other countries, negative 11.7. But this is my point. This is my point. In 2022, those countries that had negative, you hear any negative? 7.7, 11, 23.7 for Bahamas. By 2022, you're seeing Bahamas recovering at 9.4. You're seeing Jamaica, I don't know if at 4.4. You're seeing Barbados recovering, I don't want to get the wrong figures, I think at 9.4. But the point is, all of these countries have made significant recoveries from a terrible, terrible negative deficit position, which we all experienced in 2020. What's Trinidad's problem? What is Trinidad's problem? And when we're talking, the final point I want to make before I seem like I am the foreign exchange reserves. My goodness gracious me. Well, IMF says we have 6 point something. I think the central bank says 7 months import cover. But what we do know is our import cover has gone down tremendously since 2014. You can't get more than $200 from a bank. But every morning they're opening up one of those foreign franchises. Where is our money going, and why are they able to open up franchise upon franchise upon franchise upon franchise? Why are they not investing in this country? Why are they not investing in growing food in Guyana or in the Caribbean islands and developing an agro industry? Why are we not developing that? Spending $5 billion on food, some of them frozen. When you look at it in the supermarket, you wouldn't buy it because it's over frozen and you don't even know what it is anyhow, right? Why are we continuing to have these foreign franchises that are using about foreign exchange being paid? They have to pay their royalties back in US dollars, right? They have to pay it back, and they're paying low-end salaries. Why is the government, why is the ease of business not easing up? Why is it continuing? Is this country being run by a small group of people who decide what is going to happen in this country? Look at your Procurement Act. Huh? They only passed it in a few weeks ago, and they don't have a regulator. You had Mr. Lalman, leave him for a year now. Leave him for years so that somebody could understudy everything. Why don't you pass the legislation dealing with contributions to campaign financing? Why? Why you should do that? Because I never see a building go up on using, what they say?
Raffle tickets?
I have never seen anything go up on raffle tickets like that. I mean, that is amazing. I think the Prime Minister is not in the right job. I'm serious, because I have never seen a building go up on raffle tickets like that. And if you believe that, you believe that pigs can fly, right? So just understand that the country's position is terrible. This government, oil and gas, the Prime Minister have to admit it. What about the this dragon field? You think you're not anything about dragon field anymore?
Well, he did. Remember, I did show you the one article on it. He did. It seems as though they're still trying to do negotiations.
Of course, they have to still try.
You know,
because you know what Maduro is saying. I read it today. Maduro is saying, first of all, you think Maduro? Come on, his country's being starved of money. They want money, right? The U.S. said yes, we could deal with them. But it is on they put a qualification of 2 years, and then you can't pay them in money, you must pay them in kind. They're getting their money from the UAE, from countries like Australia and China and India. What are you worrying about with Trinidad? You see a picture with Maduro and our Prime Minister. You see a picture with Stuart Young and our Prime Minister. You see they talking. You hear what they're saying? They're saying they're having difficulties. You didn't hear what they're saying? They're saying, telling you they're having problems. Translate that.
When the minister, the energy minister,
with the 4 trains,
right? No. Venezuela's minister. Remember, he got kicked out with corruption and so forth. I did wonder how would that affect the deal, and it seems it has derailed the deal.
It's not only that you can't just look at that, because I was actually reading that I thought they're saying there are 460 new oil companies, oil refineries coming on, because what countries recognize, it makes far more sense for them to refine the product rather than sell it as a crude oil.
Right.
And they're about 460, that's what I read, I read it from Newsweek with American production. And they say, so listen, they're also saying this idea that coal production, you know what the highest users of coal? United States, yes. Australia, you're looking it up now. Australia and India, they're the highest users of coal. So this whole idea of renewable energy and wind energy, and look at the solar plant, look at the solar thing. You remember this was started since 2018. I'm not going to persecute that more, but you know that it couldn't start it till now. And because of that, it costs more for that solar energy than natural gas. And they said, the NGC has said, to start up a proper non-renewable source, I don't want to misrepresent the figure, something like $43 billion it will cost. And he says, this is why the large countries should help, because we didn't cause the carbon emission problem, and we are the victims. You understand? You making sense from nonsense?
I mean, right now,
are you making sense from nonsense?
China's coal usage apparently is going up to the point where their imports, because they have coal mines as well, they had to increase their imports. So
what about Australia? What about America?
Yeah, all of that to Germany. Germany, who wanted to lead the way with renewables.
With the wind that's not blowing.
I think the sad part is we really...
What's the sad part?
There's so much I don't have, despite how things are looking now, I have very little confidence that when our oil and gas revenue dry up further, because they will, right?
They have the Manatee project
It's small now. It will get smaller. One way or another, it will get smaller, right? At some point. What will our nation do? I might be dead when it completely runs dry, but what will happen?
Will you have grandchildren?
Maybe not. I have nephews, so at the very least.
No. I asked him if he will have grandchildren. Everybody heard me ask him that.
Well, I need kids first, Karen.
There we go.
Right? Okay, thank you.
There we go.
Stop trying to lawyer me, right? But my point is, what will the nation look like then? And I think...
What will it look like then? You don't see where the nation look like now? You think when you see
I'm saying that it's only going to get worse at the rate that we're going. It's only going to get worse. And you know, somebody has to worry about the future down the line, because our politicians tend to only be concerned about the next election.
I've never seen anything like that. Look at the local government elections. It's good. The Privy Council put them in their place with that. They tell them, this is not about constitution because it's right. The constitution doesn't talk about local election. It is about a democracy, a democratic republic. It is not for the parliament, far less the government, to change the date on which your local government election is held. You hear what the public council said, and then you have an attorney general who I like personally, but oh my God, you really not doing anything good for your reputation when you come out of there, you know. So talking them numbers, playing a numbers game. What is that about?
I would say that a lot of that was not about the issue at hand. A lot of that was about fighting to ensure that they would win the whatever next election comes up. But the local, the general, and it goes back to what I said before Karen came, folks. If all they care about is winning elections, they ain't going to improve the country.
But
they ain't going to make improvements to anything, Karen.
Let me tell you something. You see that local government election, I heard the average numbers that come out is 30%. And we know that the last local government election, Kamala had a lot of infighting. She did not have money. The PNM had money card done, I don't know, from selling, what is it they sold again? Raffle tickets, whatever, however, they got plenty money, yeah? And some of the advertisements were really funny. I have to say, I played them over and over again because you have to have a sense of humor in this country. But with all of that, she got another seat in the electoral district of Sandy Grande. With all of that, she won seats in critical areas like San Fernando Corporation. With all of that, and they are running scared because they know that local government election is going to be a dress rehearsal for what is going to happen in national election. All of those people who are sitting on the fence, you know, the PIPs, there are plenty PIPs in this country.
I have to stop you there because they will lynch us. We have to go.
They lynch us?
Yes, we have to break for news on
you don't lynch me?
No, I talk.
They might lynch me, not you.
I talk about the director.
Oh, they lynch me, not you.
We have to break for news today. Our folks, when we come back, we'll open up the phone line. Say I'm talking one of WS and your content capital. Stay tuned.
Here is your WESN News on the Hour. I am Sierra Ali. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. THA Chief Secretary expected to break silence soon. Investigation into missing Vindra Naipal Kulman filed to be completed by month end. A man used a teen as a shield against gunmen. Regionally, Guyana awaits local government election results. And internationally, Donald Trump pleads not guilty to criminal charges. Now for the details. Chief Secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly, Farley Augustine, is expected to break his silence soon. This assurance came from Deputy Chief Secretary Dr. Faith B. Israel as she spoke on the 3-week silence from Augustine and Secretary Zurisha Hackett regarding a viral audio recording. June 30th this year is the deadline being given by retired Justice Stanley John for the completion of investigation of the file, which went missing and was eventually found into the kidnapping and murder of businesswoman Vindra Naipal Kulman. This update came from Attorney General Reginald Amor in the Senate on Tuesday. The AG was asked by opposition Senator Wade Mark to give the rationale for the state's failure to file defenses to the malicious prosecution claims which led to the award of damages, and what action, if any, does the state intend to take in light of the court decision. In response, the AG said he does not get involved in investigations but referred to previous utterances given by the retired justice relating to the matter. Amos said he is not aware of retired Justice John asking for an extension to the probe. A 30-year-old St. James man is believed to have used a 19-year-old bystander as a shield to block him from a hail of bullets. However, both men died in the attack. Eyewitnesses indicate that Tyrell Thomas visited Tony's supermarket on the Western Main Road, St. James, around 7:30 p.m. on Friday and left. Another man, Yuri Moses, left the store shortly before was approached by two gunmen. Moses, in his panic, grabbed Thomas and tried to use him as a shield. The shooters killed both men. In an even more tragic twist of fate, Thomas met his mother at the Dundonald Hill taxi stand an hour before he was killed and offered the last seat in the taxi, promising to get home shortly. Moses, on the other hand, was the victim of a shooting 2 years ago and became a recluse, refusing to come out of his house in fear of his safety. Regionally, Guyanese citizens await official results from the Guyana Election Commission following Monday's local government election. Vice President Dr. Bharat Jagdeo said the ruling People's Progressive Party Civic secured a landslide victory. Speaking at a media conference on Tuesday, Jagdeo said a statement of polls from election night show the party is on track to win 62 of 80 local authority areas. Over 400,000 people were eligible to participate in yesterday's election. Internationally, Donald Trump has pleaded not guilty to criminal charges, alleging he retained classified documents after he left the White House. It's alleged that U.S. government secrets were stored in a shower, bathroom, ballroom, and bedroom of his Mar-a-Lago estate. After leaving the court, the former president stopped at a well-known Cuban cafe in Miami to greet supporters. Well, that's news to the hour on WESN. I am Sierra Ali. Thanks for watching.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
Welcome back to Talking Point, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, now is the time we open up the phone lines. We ask for you, the viewer, to call in to speak about whatever you want to speak about. It doesn't have to be about what we spoke about. And I know that I was very opinionated and fiery at the top of the show. Karen, of course, is coming in very opinionated. Maybe not so fiery, you know, for the rest of the show, but definitely opinionated. She's saying things that not a lot of party supporters
based
might want
on
to hear.
facts.
Right? So if you want to disagree with us, sure. We encourage that on the show.
We do.
Call in with your disagreement, but disagree with us based on factual data and logical reasoning, not based off of just what you like to hear and what you don't like to hear, because that's not really helping in the situation. That's not helping anybody. So the phone line, the one line is on your screen, 628-4578. When you call in, please try to be efficient with your time, because by only having one line, we need to kind of keep the line clear for other callers. We have a call on the line now from Chagonas. Good morning. Morning.
Answer.
Sorry.
Well, you have answered. If it wasn't him, he would have said so. The mere fact that he have not said so means it is him. And secondly, when we talk about bureaucracy, what you call in bureaucracy is red tape or spin. Right? Bureaucracy is a complicated structure, governmental structure, that you have a methodology they call management of a bureaucracy that is supposed to be used. when you sit down spinning, that is letting. Okay, gentlemen and lady. Any questions?
But what were you talking
What
about?
was the
in
first
relation
point
to-
you made? Because
yeah, we didn't hear.
we didn't hear the first point.
Which one that was the, what was it before Farley?
I guess so, yes. No, well, I think the point on Farley and before that, if you had one before that.
I can't remember.
What was the one on Farley, if you remember?
The one on Farley, I said he answered the question. Because if it wasn't him, he would have said so.
Ah, okay.
That is pure logic.
Okay, okay.
That reminds me of a
something,
song,
say
you
no.
know.
But if you know you do it, then you have to spin out the answer.
Okay.
You know that song? I think it wasn't me.
Oh, God. Oh, no, that's the professor saying, Farley's not saying that.
Right, so I'm saying.
Ah, okay.
Oh.
Well, okay.
Okay, but anyhow.
Thank you, Professor.
Yes, I wanted to tell you quickly that people have said that they try to get in, I met somebody on Saturday, loves the show, and says they can't
get through. Yeah, I don't know what it is, because sometimes we're wondering, is it just that people don't want to call in anymore?
No, they want to.
No, we're really concerned, and I believe there was one call-in segment where the phone line more or less knocked out on us right in the middle of it, because they started doing work on the phones. Literally at that moment, the directors are telling us that, and we're on air.
I would conclude, having heard this discourse many times, that TSTT has no shame.
That is not entirely true. When the workers come in, the workers that come in,
I'm not talking about the workers, I'm talking about
right, the company. Okay.
Yes,
okay.
the company appears not to be shamed into action.
I do wonder if there's something to be said about the standards, the expectations we have in our society for work standards and professionalism and attending to your duties diligently. But we'll leave that there. We have a call on the line from Claxton Pay. Good morning, caller.
Yeah, hi, good morning, Tito. Small and Mr. Shera.
Morning.
All over the world today, we have problems, We have problems all over the world. And we are not unique from that. But I think if we want to be fair, the government that is there, in spite of everything, is trying. Because the thing, I don't feel that I'm nobody right now who could do better. You watch around and everybody will say this and they're saying that and they're saying the other. What we need to do is come out and tell the people the truth. I hear Mr. Shera use that word, tell people the truth. And I ask myself, what is the reason why educated people doesn't want to tell the people the truth? You understand? I mean to say, our country become a kind of fearful, yes, because if you tell people the truth, you could be maybe assassinated or something like that. But we need to tell people the truth, because I live in an Indian area, and there's a lot of Indians who want to know what is the right thing. They want to know, but all these mixed messages that they get have them confused. So that will be something that you all need to do. Tell people the truth. Thank you.
Thank you, caller.
And that's exactly the point. I started by using Bear Stearns, talk about the issue of confidence. And the fact of the matter is the government is running the country. Certainly you don't want to fearmonger. You don't want to do that. Which government? I mean, you'll be shooting yourself in the foot to do that. But to say things that are deliberately misleading, for example, the fiscal deficit, putting the gas at $6 when gas has been trading at nearly $2. Most of our gas goes to LNG, yes, because for the various regions, UK, Russia had a lot to do with that. The oil production now is 57. Yeah, okay, we have a call.
We have a call on the line from Felicity. This might be a first-time caller. Good morning, caller. Morning.
Hey, good morning, Sean. Good morning, Karen. How are you?
Fine, thanks.
That's one of the great, Karen, I think Bazasik should say, in terms of UNC, I firmly believe that Kamala Persad-Bissessar should step down. Now, UNC may very well win the local government elections, but Kamala Persad-Bissessar can never lead UNC to victory in a general elections. Another suggestion, good morning, Keaton, wherever you are. And another suggestion to you guys, well, and to you, my dear lady, WSN, is that you can do away with TSTT. There are other options. Instead of having TSTT and, this and that with you, there are networks you can go to. And also another suggestion, perhaps you all can have like a WhatsApp number where people can probably send in WhatsApp messages.
Okay.
And, that can work.
That's a good idea.
Karen, I want to wish you a great day. I'm waiting for the day that you take over the leadership of a political party. And certainly this caller will be your biggest supporter then. Have a good day.
Thank you very
take care.
much.
Bye.
Thank you, caller.
Thank you. I want to just say, though, that I don't think you should... I believe that Kamala should step down, but I do think that they're looking at coalition. And I think we are going to have a coalition government, but it's going to be much more spelled out and clearer than it was, because that's happening around the world. You just said it, I think the previous caller talked about problems around the world. And we have reached that point in Trinidad because of our number of factors.
I think, though, that it would be better for the coalition if Kamala stepped down.
But Kamala needs to step down, and she needs to get rid of Anna Roberts.
I just want to say quick that I agree with the caller previously. With the current active serving politicians, I don't know if we have an alternative, and that's the problem. That is the problem.
You didn't hear the man give you an alternative you don't want to hear? I'm sure. Go ahead and listen to the man. No. Don't say anything. Don't worry.
I have a little bit of hope, Kai. I still have a little bit of hope. We have a caller on the line.
Go ahead.
From Diego Martin, I think.
Hi, morning.
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 I think it's unfair to bash TSTT in the way you guys bashing TSTT. I'll tell you why.
Okay.
This government, when they came into power, and I'm not politically affiliated, I always tell you all that, right? This government, when they came into power, they downsized TSTT. They kept 60% management and less than 20% workers, right? In my opinion, no business could run like that, because any structure, any model you watch at, majority, they are workers. I think this government, they were too lazy. Like other governments in the country, they were too lazy to put in the necessary work to make things happen. TSTT has every other company in this country passes through TSTT's network, TSTT's infrastructure, right? It's sad, because I did vote for Mr. Rowley, hoping that he would have backed up his talk, but they're running the country to the ground. And the unfortunate thing is that apparently we have no other political party that we can have confidence in. Thank you.
Yeah, but I think number one, you made a very good point about, and there must be a lot of disaffection among workers. So what you're talking about TSTT is really, you could talk about that for the Petrotrin. They clearly did not have an idea what they were about. There's so many things they don't have an idea about, and then they come after on the back foot and try to make ridiculous explanations, shout and scream, bad talk, and really taking the country down a hole. But where people now have finally realized, because we have an educated public, and they may not speak out because they have contracts, they have a number of factors that, prevent them from speaking their minds. But you're right, the blame relates clearly on the government in the way in which they restructured, as they did with Petrotrin. Petrotrin is such a mess. And it's just an ongoing problem. No foreign direct investment. Crime has gone the highest. Earla Christopher, I don't have anything against her. I do not know her. She was very brave, and I admired her at the first, although I didn't think I would have done it, giving undertaking that this will go down, that will go down, that will go down. Listen, the crime rate, the murder rate the other day, and it's about, well, the last time I got it, about a few days ago, 650. It has surpassed last year, and last year was the highest. What is wrong? And then the government is going to renew a contract for another year. They're doing the same thing they did with local government. It is going to the Privy Council, Well, and I want to say one final thing. You just said unless a caller calls. You just said, yes, Kamala has to step down. I think we all recognize that. I mean, it is clear that Kamala needs to step down. But in stepping down, get rid of Anna Roberts, because Anna Roberts, listen, when you lost, nobody forgot the reason why you lost, you know. People liked Kamala, you know. Kamala was Mother Lakshmi. She had public appeal. She had everything going for her, just like how Pandey had it. But time, you have to recognize your time is over, and you have to give someone else that front seat. And one of the things you have to do, I rarely advise you to do, and Anna Roberts could bad talk me from now till tomorrow, they'll be doing the same thing as done years ago. Get rid of him, because he symbolizes everything why people did not vote for your party. And I don't know how you do not understand that. Better you put in Anand Ram Logan, who has he's a brilliant lawyer. He mashing them up left, right, and center. Better you ease back in Anand. He ain't get convicted or anything. Better you ease back in Anand Ram Logan. But let go of Anna Roberts. Why do you want that Karapo? I was the minister. Yes, they will say because I was the MP there. But I know Samro Village. Mark Adams died. Boyo Cummins, Devon Cummins in jail for Dana Sitahal's, Sarup Sitahal's murder. His brother went and turned state witness. That is what is going on in Karapo. That is what's going on in Samro Village. And who was the MP for there? Anil Roberts, the Sports Authority. Please, don't you see the damage you're doing? You see the conversation is perception. The perception, you are doing yourself a great disservice. If you want to have him in the background, I can't tell you not to do that, because the PNM probably does the same darn thing. But you need to move him from your frontliners. I'm telling you that.
Well, I've reached the point where I personally think he just needs to go. I don't see the value of him at all, right? Of all the politicians, he is...
Let's talk about liability.
But I want to go back to TSTT though. Caller, I know that it sounds like we're being unfair, but we literally have had issues for, I think now, this might be the second year, if we're not past 2 years already. I think it comes down to, and what you said alludes to what I believe the problem is, and that's with regards to the upper level management and decision making. Because it's the policies that they're undertaking that rarely seem to, like, it doesn't make sense to us. It's how they work, how their workers have to work seem very inefficient, where we have a problem and we might get 2 to 3 sets of technicians, and it's like we're starting over each time.
And
that they're coming in. And yes, and I could understand that the workers will be frustrated too. So I want to reiterate the point. It's not about the workers giving us necessarily bad service, at least the ones who are coming in, right, to talk to us, to deal with the problem physically at our location. But with regards to the policies of how they treat us, it just does not seem to be very conducive to being a good corporate citizen, much less a good service provider. With that said, to the caller before him, his point, we've had other problems with other telecom companies as well, not just
Okay, so you know where it comes down to? Having, again, I sound like a broken record, but I'll have to sound like a broken record. Minister of Public Utilities, Cabinet, that's where decisions are made. See, when you made chairman, you know, you see how many people run through WASA? You see how many from the beginning? You know why? They don't have power. You understand that? It's the minister, and even the minister may not have power. Power coming from elsewhere. So I am telling you straight up that a lot of the problems you're seeing, whether it is the Petrotrim, whether it's TSTT, whatever it is, they are carrying out policies, and those policies, because they are state-owned organizations, are coming from higher up. And we are seeing the consequences of that. So it's poor planning, and we're seeing that even, we mentioned Farley Augustine. We're always calling it Farley Davidson. Look at a disappointment. We have to have Vanus James on, because he gave licks about PDP and to Farley Augustine. I think Farley Augustine got a little bit more licks because there was so much hope. You don't see that people are tired of being bullied. I don't know if it's not coming across to you that people are tired of being bullied and spoken down to, and that they feel a sense of hopelessness and helplessness. I don't know if it's coming out. I think the PNM government, honestly, and this is why the local government election is going to be important for the country and our nation and our grandchildren and children. I feel part of the reason why they are being so, I would even dismissive in their attitude is because they feel that as much as people are unhappy with them, they are more unhappy with Kamala. I feel that is why they feel it. They say, okay, we might get plenty of people to come out, but we will still win the election. And that's all they care about.
Look at Tobago. Yes, they lost, but the PNM is looking to be well positioned to reverse that scenario in the next THA election. It's only been, it's less than 2 years.
Why you say that?
Well, things have not started off well for the current executive.
Yeah.
Right? And it's always easier when you're in opposition.
Yeah.
Or you just have to complain about what they're doing wrong. You don't have to do anything. So you have the advantage in that political battle. It's hard to win re-election. And when you're starting, well, the very beginning looked so great, their first month or two in office, right? The first couple of months. They all look
great. That is, you know, they call that the honeymoon period.
Right. But the back half of the first year, that's when things started to look a little shaky. And now, we're in the second year, and things ain't looking all that good. I mean, the current political leader of the Tobago Council for the PNM, he already had a pretty good standing, I think, among certain voters in Tobago and certain undecided voters and moderate voters, right? So I don't think it would necessarily take much for him to make up the ground that his predecessor lost, right? And I don't know who is advising the THA executive, but I think it's a shame because the PNM is being given this signal. All we need to do is look pretty and be stable, and the other guys, the other side, will shoot themselves in the foot.
You're being very naive to think they're just doing that. What I will say, a day in politics is a lifetime. That's the first thing I will say. Secondly, I think Farley, Augustine, as well as Dr. B. Israel have done themselves a disservice because they certainly came across as being accessible, and the common denominator among people is that accessibility has apparently disappeared and vanished, and so that he didn't understand, or maybe he didn't read Martin Daly's article. I mean, everybody reads Martin Daly, yes, giving you some kudos, but you deserve it. He said that, you know, he was very much in favor of Farley Augustine because of his temperament. We came across as being moderate in his views. And look at how he's behaving now. You know, he's getting like the emperor losing his clothes or something. He didn't lose all, but it looked like he's on his way. So I think he needs to do some re-examination of himself. And the fact that they lost, I know you told me it's not as simple as that, but it doesn't look good, right? They lost 900,000 on the...
With the Tobago Carnival.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're building and I know they are not the ones who, but they had to have agreed to the airport for 3 million people when the average
they do agree with it.
Right.
And I disagree with that.
30,000 tourists. I went on CSO site, you know. I went on CSO site.
In fact, 30,000 is the high end. I have heard a lower number.
Much
I have
lower.
heard it's 20,000.
That is 27. 30,000 is a high number. And you're building an airport for 3 million.
Yeah, folks.
No, you have to figure to yourself. You have to figure to yourself something not right there. Something not right there. We take too much. Go and now I read in today's papers, they say you cannot have a political, you do not need permission to have a political meeting. The Constitution protects you from that. But you need permission to have a march, and the commissioner has to
You mean a protest?
Yes, protest.
You don't need permission to protest.
Right.
But to march, yes.
Yes. So I think it's time people start having their voices heard, because it is time that we as a people let people understand enough is enough, and we are tired of the government of we are going to. I think they don't go and say red and ready, please, because it's not true. You're going to say we are going to, and ...
I actually will think...
You agree with me?
Yes, I agree with you.
What?
I think neither side is as ready as it should be for this local government elections. And honestly, all of the legal shenanigans aside, they should have been better prepared.
You don't know. We're talking.
Maybe, but I just like to point out, I did say at the top of the show, this show is an equal opportunity critic. Well, look, we have literally criticized all three parties in one segment. Don't say we bias. We have no bias here because we find fault with everybody.
And Arnold Roberts has to go.
Well,
take him down, Kamala. You're doing more damage. You know how you have pros and cons? Like in a marriage. If he decided to get married, pros and the cons, but he has so much cons against him. And I mean it in many ways when I say that.
There are a lot of people I think have to go.
Yeah,
but he is at the top of the list.
He is at the top of the list.
There are a lot of people on both sides of Parliament that need to go. But he's at the top of the
Kamala, you need to give somebody else a chance because you have a good lineup in the front.
I also look forward to when Dr. Keith Rowley moves on.
Oh, God.
But I shudder about what we get.
Oh, God.
So
you assume they're going to win then?
Regardless of opposition
but don't say that, no, man. You have some confidence in your country. You know. I think leadership is key. Ask Trump.
Folks.
I'm looking for my shoes. That's why.
Okay, with that, let's end the show on that. As Karen is looking for her shoes, I want to thank all of the viewers, all of the callers for calling in on Talking Point. Yes, we might have some phone line troubles, but we try our best to hear from you, the viewer, to participate in the conversations that we believe are so important for the nation. That is ultimately what the show is all about here, trying to help the discussion move forward.
Please, that's what we really try to do.
So the country could move forward.
We really do. And I have not found my other pair of shoes.
Okay, all right. And with that, we're out. We will see you tomorrow. Goodbye.
WESN.
Is it politics? What is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing on it.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is there no pressure on Nicholas Ball?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the red, white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
The issue, the continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you, what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through? Is the government losing the war on the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the greatest number of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
How do we inculcate a sense of respect and regard for people who may not be of your own political ilk or persuasion?
The communities are now being used by political opportunists. So
when the tables are turned, it's the same way. Okay, this has been 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson, and we'll see you next time.
We are WESN, the premier platform for Caribbean content. WESN, covering West, East, South, and North. WESN, we entertainment, sports, and news. WESN, available on Greendot 7, Amplia 118, Airlink 17, Bmobile 107, Digicel 21, ICNTT 105, and Flow 110. Connect with us at WESNCC or stream online at www.wesncc.com. WESN, your premier platform for Caribbean content.
The fact that he also had a huge control of the media, and so he could really push his party. But because his personality, his face, his image is very much tied to it, some actually question as to how far the party can survive without his face and his personality being at the helm of it all. Now, his right-hand man and the current Foreign Minister and Deputy Prime Minister, Antonio Tajani, has said very clearly that they will continue with his ideas as their guidance. He has denied any thoughts that the party will disappear, but political observers question as to whether it can continue without him. And some even say that perhaps it might be taken over in some respects by other parties in the right, in particular Giorgia Meloni's Brothers of Italy party. Or perhaps maybe we could have another Berlusconi at the helm of the party, one of his children, perhaps Marina Berlusconi, his eldest, who currently runs his business holdings. That said, though, his children haven't really ever expressed interest in the political side of his control. So we'll have to see if that really happens, or the party simply disintegrates, some of them joining the right-wing parties, or even some choosing to join more centrist parties like that under the former Prime Minister Matteo Renzi. As for his business empire, we're talking about one of the richest men in Italy. It's estimated that he could be worth some 6 billion euros. And he's got his media company as well as his overall holdings. He's also got properties. Will his eldest children, Marina Berlusconi, as well as his son Pier Silvio, who currently runs the media company, will they be taking over that? It's still unclear because it was never specifically mentioned who would take over. Most people think that that's what will happen. Will there be squabbling? Some may question what the succession will be like for the business side of things as well.
Seema Gupta talking to us there, our Italy correspondent. Thank you very much. Well, let's bring you now some other world news on the programme, and let's head to Ukraine, where overnight Russian missile strikes killed 3 people in the Black Sea city of Odessa and 3 others in the Donetsk region. Those attacks, though, coming as Kyiv's counter-offensive to reclaim occupied territory is underway. Lisa Kamenoff has more.
A warehouse on fire, residential buildings and schools in ruins. This is the aftermath of the latest Caliber missile attack on Odessa. Emergency teams are searching for victims stuck underneath the rubble. The blast waves also destroyed food establishments and shops nearby. Those residents who survived the attack mobilized quickly to help clean up the damage.
At 2 o'clock, in the middle of the night, I heard an explosion. I lived near the Micron factory, and I heard it even from there.
It's really scary. We had just heard the air raid siren and hadn't even had time to get downstairs when the explosion happened. And just after the explosion, we went to the parking lot. It's terrifying.
Once a top holiday destination for both Russians and Ukrainians, the port city has been bombed several times since the beginning of the war and is now classified as a UNESCO World Heritage Site in danger. The eastern cities of Kramatorsk and Kostiantynivka were also shelled in an overnight strike, wounding civilians and damaging many homes. The Ukrainian Air Force reported that it had managed to destroy 3 missiles and 9 drones before they hit their targets. Ukraine military says Russia has increased its missile and aerial strikes. This comes as Kiev is moving its counter-offensive forwards, claiming some modest gains and intensifying the fighting along the 1,000-kilometer front.
In other news, Donald Trump has pleaded not guilty to all counts related to his alleged mishandling of classified documents, as he became the first former US president to face federal criminal charges. If convicted, he faces possible jail time, but that did not prevent him from switching into campaign mode yesterday, directly after his appearance in court. Solange Mougin has this.
Closing out the day with his own spin. There were no cameras allowed in the courtroom when Donald Trump became the first U.S. president to face federal charges. But Trump tried to make sure that his narrative of being a victim of a witch hunt was the final word Tuesday, with a rally for supporters in New Jersey.
Today we witnessed the most evil and heinous abuse of power in the history of our country. Very sad thing to watch. A corrupt, sitting president had his top political opponent arrested on fake and fabricated charges. This is called election interference and yet another attempt to rig and steal a presidential election.
Hours earlier in Miami, Trump used the same tactics. Ever on the campaign trail, he made a surprise visit to a Cuban bakery after his arraignment, basking in the attention and serenaded on the eve of his 77th birthday. Trump drummed up support from Latino voters.
Food for everyone. Food for everyone.
The jubilant attitude was in stark contrast with Trump's behavior in a federal courthouse earlier that morning. Witnesses said Trump sat silently scowling as his lawyers entered a not guilty plea to 37 federal counts for hoarding classified documents and refusing to hand them over. Trump risks hundreds of years behind bars under the Espionage Act. The pretrial proceedings, though, along with another case in New York on hush money charges, they could drag on for months and possibly years. But they are smack dab in the midst of Trump's campaign and quest for re-election in 2024. The charges are damning, but they also give him ample limelight to push his view that he's the victim of political persecution.
Now, at least 59 people are feared to have drowned early this morning after their boat capsized and sank off the Greek coast. Over 100 people have been rescued in an operation that was complicated by high winds. The boat was en route from Italy to Libya, and the nationalities of the migrants on board is not immediately clear. Now, the United Nations says a record 110 million people worldwide have been forcibly displaced from their homes. It is an unprecedented number fueled by Russia's war in Ukraine, refugees fleeing Afghanistan and the fighting in Sudan. Emerald Maxwell has this.
An unprecedented number of people across the world have been forced to flee their homes. That's according to the UNHCR chief, painting a stark picture.
110 million people that have fled because of conflict, persecution, discrimination, violence. Last year, when we announced that for the first time we had gone over 100 million displaced people, well, already 10% more have been added to this figure. It's quite an indictment on the state of our world.
Last year, the UN Refugee Agency recorded 35 emergencies, 3 to 4 times more than a typical year. A list that includes the conflict in Sudan, which has displaced nearly 2 million people since April, and Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, which led to the fastest and largest displacement of people since World War II, some 11 million people. Conflicts in Ethiopia, the Democratic Republic of Congo and Myanmar last year displaced more than 1 million people within each country. Most of these 110 million globally have sought refuge within their nation's borders. 1/3 of them, 35 million, have fled to other countries.
The majority of the people that flee not to rich countries, but to countries that are either poor or middle-income countries.
Turkey currently hosts the most refugees with 3.8 million people, followed by Iran with 3.4 million refugees, mostly Afghans.
And that is a wrap for this news update on France 24. Thank you for watching.
France 24, your window on the world. Liberté, égalité, actualité.
Hello, I'm Annette Young and welcome to the 51%, a show about women reshaping our world, coming up. With the Taliban banning girls from secondary schools and universities, we meet the Afghan families who've risked everything by fleeing to neighbouring Pakistan to ensure their daughters get an education. We also head to the Kenyan village, which bans men as it offers a refuge to women and girls facing the risks of female genital mutilations, domestic abuse or child marriage. And bucking sexism, the sport of bull riding, once reserved for just men in Nicaragua, is undergoing a major change as women riders are now taking part in rodeos. But first, the UN estimates that some 3 million girls have been banned from high school since the Taliban seized control of Afghanistan back in August 2021. The regime also blocking women from attending university as well as from working in many jobs. In desperation, tens of thousands of Afghan families have fled to neighbouring Pakistan to ensure their daughters receive an education. It's far from an ideal destination since Pakistan does not offer much in terms of work prospects for Afghan refugees. Our team on the ground sent us this report.
Dozens of Afghan children enrolled in the school after their families found refuge in Pakistan. Zeba Hussain is the founder of this charity-run school that educates children coming from the most deprived and marginalized communities. She takes pride in opening her doors to Afghan students, especially girls. These three sisters found refuge in Pakistan along with their parents and are undocumented.
तो आप इधर क्यों आए?
उधर लड़ाई है, तालिबान नहीं है। वो लड़कियों को स्कूल नहीं छोड़ देते कि स्कूल जाते हैं। पढ़ाई करने घर से बाहर निकले, उसको मारते, उसका सर मारते, उसको बेइज्जती करते, बेइज्जती करते। वो बाहर रहती है, उसको कंचीन मारती है। उधर हम लोग सब लड़के, हमारा भाई भी नहीं है उस वजह से।
मुश्किल था?
बहुत मुश्किल था।
डर लगता था?
उसको पसंद है, लड़की को नहीं बोलते तो मेरा से शादी करोगे, तो उसको साथ शादी करोगे। वो इतना बड़ा है ना, जबरदस्ती से उसके साथ शादी करोगे।
उस लड़की को?
उसको मतलब और बंद करा। हम मगी वतन शनोरामस, माज़मनिस।
Our country is the only one like that. I feel bad. We came here and we see that everyone has the right to education, has the right to go to school, but our country is destroyed and the schools are closed.
More than 1.5 million undocumented Afghan refugees live in Pakistan. They cannot access free public education. Zeba's school is one of the few options they have.
Our school is open to anyone who wants to study. I don't care about race, religion, about the status, about anything. So it's really a humanitarian school because right now they need education, they need guidance, they need socialization. They should be able to be happy. They don't want to be isolated.
Like most of the children here, Natasha and her sisters live in sheer poverty. Since they have been in exile, they have to work to support their families.
يكوني موجود وبيبر ماس بيبر مكتبس بس نفنو انتقال ميتمارة.
شكرا بخوانی کوشش کنی درسایتان بخوانی افغانستان حالاتش خوب نیست اینجا ما مسافر هستیم حالات ما خوب نیست انا بکشی بری بکسایتان بانی بری بلا کارتان.
ها بری.
Every afternoon, the sisters spend several hours in front of a Sufi shrine. They sell rose petals to pilgrims, earning just a few hundred rupees per day. Pakistan's conservative society frowns upon the public presence of unsupervised teenage girls. The men here don't respect them.
I feel really bad here. People don't look at me like I'm just a regular girl, but like something else. The men here also bully me and make humiliating comments and put us down. They say Afghan girls are like this, Afghan girls are like that. It makes me want to end my life.
Many Afghan refugees have settled in the south of Islamabad, where it's cheaper to live. Some have even created private learning centers like this one. Girls and boys from middle and high school learn together, something unimaginable under the Taliban regime in Afghanistan. The students in this class are learning English, hoping to one day get a visa for Europe or North America.
Pari, what's your favorite country in the world?
My favorite country is Canada because the country is very beautiful.
Would you like to visit Canada one day?
Yes.
Okay, very good. It actually makes me very happy when I see my Afghan students they are attending in this center, in this institute, and they are coming to learn something. I just always remind them, right now in Afghanistan, girls are banned from the education, and they are hungry for this kind of opportunity, but you guys already have this kind of opportunity. Try to use this.
I feel so happy to study, to be sitting here with my classmates. I'm so happy that we came here and that I can continue my studies.
Parichar was able to resume her studies. It was for her that her mother, a cleaning lady, took the difficult decision of moving to Pakistan despite the financial difficulties.
I thought Kabul was no longer a good place for us. What if my children end up illiterate like their father or me? We had to immigrate somewhere where they could study and where their future would be better. It's a heavy burden, but people can do anything for their children.
Integration for Afghan refugees in Pakistan is a huge challenge. Only a few manage to get refugee status and access skilled jobs.
Now, what happens if you're a girl or a woman facing the risks of female genital mutilation, domestic abuse or child marriage? Well, if you're living in Kenya's northeastern Samburu region, you can head to the village of Umoja, whose sole purpose is to provide women and girls with a refuge from gender-based violence.
A moment of joy that belies these women's traumatic pasts. Umoja in the northwestern Samburu region of Kenya looks like a typical Maasai village, except for a crucial detail. There are no men. Only women and their children are allowed to live here, in a community that seeks to provide a safe haven for victims of gender-based violence.
No one has to have an unplanned baby. These girls need to be educated and choose their own partners. Not like the old days when their fathers married them off to old rich men. Women should choose who they love.
The village was founded some 30 years ago when around a dozen women were cast out by their husbands for saying they'd been raped by British soldiers. Hundreds of others allege similar abuse, though UK authorities cleared the troops of wrongdoing. As word of the village spread, other women fled to Umoja to escape forced marriages and violence. Over 40% of Kenyan women will suffer sexual or domestic abuse at some point in her lifetime.
I'm very proud to live in this village because no one is stressing me out and my husband can't hurt me here.
The women make jewellery that they sell to tourists, making enough money to support themselves and send their children to school. Residents also visit surrounding villages to warn other women about the dangers of early marriage and genital mutilation, both commonplace in rural Kenya. In Samburu culture, women are considered subordinate to men, but the residents of Umoja are on a mission to change that.
And finally, rodeos in Nicaragua are massively popular with the crowds, but the spectacle of watching men attempting to ride bulls is slowly changing, with more women now joining the sport. However, not only are they wrestling to stay on the bull, but they're also fighting resistance from fellow male riders.
Her helmet fastened, Evelyn Perez prepares to enter the arena. One hand on the rope, the other for balance. The goal is to stay on the bull for at least 8 seconds. Hundreds of spectators have come to watch the show at a festival in Tipatapa. It's not often that they see a woman taking part in the sport.
I've wanted to ride since I was a child, since I was 12 or 15 years old. My brother used to ride, and I told him that I wanted to as well, and he said no, it's for men. But I think that if men can do it, We can do it too.
When she's not riding, the 33-year-old is a cook and a mother to 2 children. She earns $200 every time she mounts a bull. But it's one of the world's most dangerous sports and she regularly suffers injuries. A prayer before entering the arena is part of her routine. And as much as Nicaraguans were skeptical about women getting involved in rodeo, the other riders have accepted her as one of their own.
I'm not the only female rider. There are several of us. For instance, on the 30th of December, I was in a competition in Palmares, Costa Rica, and there were 8 other women.
Perez is aware of the physical disadvantage when it comes to hanging onto an animal weighing hundreds of kilos. But she hopes more women will break the stereotype by entering the arena of bull riding.
And that's all for this edition. We'd love to hear your suggestions for the 51%, so don't hesitate to get in touch either via Facebook, Instagram or Twitter. And you can catch our previous programs on our website. So until our next show, bye for now.
WESN.
Here is the WESN News on the Hour. I am Sira Ali. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. THA Chief Secretary expected to break silence soon. Investigation into missing Vindra Naipal Kulman filed to be completed by month end. A man used a teen as a shield against gunmen. Regionally, Guyana awaits local government election results. And internationally, Donald Trump pleads not guilty to criminal charges. Now for the details. Chief Secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly, Farley Augustine, is expected to break his silence soon. This assurance came from Deputy Chief Secretary Dr. Faith B. Israel as she spoke on the 3-week silence from Augustine and Secretary Zurisha Hackett regarding a viral audio recording. June 30th this year is the deadline being given by retired Justice Stanley John for the completion of investigation of the file, which went missing and was eventually found into the kidnapping and murder of businesswoman Vindra Naipal Kulman. This update came from Attorney General Reginald Amor in the Senate on Tuesday. The AG was asked by opposition Senator Wade Mark to give the rationale for the state's failure to file defenses to the malicious prosecution claims which led to the award of damages, and what action, if any, does the state intend to take in light of the court decision. In response, the AG said he did not get involved in investigations but referred to previous utterances given by the retired justice relating to the matter. Amos said he is not aware of retired Justice John asking for an extension to the probe. A 30-year-old St. James man is believed to have used a 19-year-old bystander as a shield to block him from a hail of bullets. However, both men died in the attack. Eyewitnesses indicate that Tyrell Thomas visited Tony's supermarket on the Western Main Road, St. James, around 7:30 p.m. on Friday and left. Another man, Yuri Moses, left the store shortly before was approached by two gunmen. Moses, in his panic, grabbed Thomas and tried to use him as a shield. The shooters killed both men. In an even more tragic twist of fate, Thomas met his mother at the Dundonald Hill taxi stand an hour before he was killed and offered the last seat in the taxi, promising to get home shortly. Moses, on the other hand, was the victim of a shooting 2 years ago and became a recluse, refusing to come out of his house in fear of his safety. Regionally, Guyanese citizens await official results from the Guyana Election Commission following Monday's local government election. Vice President Dr. Bharat Jagdeo said the ruling People's Progressive Party Civic secured a landslide victory. Speaking at a media conference on Tuesday, Jagdeo said a statement of polls from election night show the party is on track to win 62 of 80 local authority areas. Over 400,000 people were eligible to participate in yesterday's election. Internationally, Donald Trump has pleaded not guilty to criminal charges, alleging he retained classified documents after he left the White House. It's alleged that U.S. government secrets were stored in a shower, bathroom, ballroom, and bedroom of his Mar-a-Lago estate. After leaving the court, the former president stopped at a well-known Cuban cafe in Miami to greet supporters. Well, that's news to the hour on WESN. I'm Sierra Ali. Thanks for watching.
We invite you to our 7th National Day of Prayer as we stand in the gap for the protective services of our nation, Trinidad and Tobago.